Hi. All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Roxanne Jurkevich, and welcome. We are on the Fit Musician Facebook group, where we try and make sure that musicians are prioritizing their health and well-being, both physical and mental, at least as much as we're prioritizing the practicing of our instruments. That is, if we are musicians and playing. But anyway, welcome everyone who might be watching. And please type into the comments wherever you might be watching from. I would love to know who our audience is today. And I'm very excited because I'm here with a very old friend. And so we're going to talk to her a lot. But before we get started, please tag anybody that you think might be enjoying this or might want to watch this afterwards. If they're not here now, please hit the like button, all that good stuff. And I just want to tell you all about one product that a good friend of mine is producing. I am going to do a screen share. You know what? I'll do that afterwards. But in the meantime, my friend Donnie Bergeron has produced an energy drink called Celivate. It's an energy drink that's super healthy. It's packed with amino acids and all sorts of amazing ingredients. It's 15 calories per can. And so I just wanted to help him plug that because it's an amazing product. So I'll share that later. But anyway, I want to get started with our special guest, Iffet Araniti-Davis, my dear, dear friend. Iffet and I'm going to let her talk, but Iffet and I were at Juilliard together. We were at Aspen Music Festival together, hanging around New York City together. And I think that she even won a job in Spain. And we were going to be Spanish neighbors, sort of.
Yeah, my dad wouldn't let me go.
You won a job in the orchestra in Seville, right? In Sevilla.
Yeah.
That's right, I remember that. So yeah, it would have been a bit of a flight to get back and forth to see each other, but would have been fun. Could have partied. Anyways, welcome, Iffet. It's so wonderful to have you with the Fit Musician group, and I can't wait to talk. So please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what instrument you used to play, how you got into yoga, all those good things.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad to be here, Roxanne. Thank you so much. And it's just amazing that the time that has passed, but yet no time has passed. So if you know me out there, if you remember me from school, hi, I look kind of the same. I still have big fuzzy hair. Yes, I got my bachelor's and master's from the Juilliard School in French horn performance, and I studied with the best. 4 years with Julie Landsman of the Met. Right before I got my master's, I won a job down here in Richmond, Virginia with the Richmond Symphony. And I think it paid $6,800 at the time, which wasn't. And they assured me there would be more work on the side, but that's all it was guaranteed at the time. It was fourth horn in the symphony, and I was so happy to come down here and have a job when I graduated. I won the job in January, and I graduated, of course, in May. And they started working me right away. And it was wonderful. And that next, George Manahan was our director of City Opera. He hired me, and, I just loved his conducting. I still do. And it just seemed like that first year that I was here, it was like Iffet's repertory orchestra. It was just everything, all the war horses, every big piece that you play in orchestral rep class, yeah. It was on this season. And first 2 years were like that, and it was great. It was so much fun. The section was really good. I just had a great time, just out of school. It was so cool. And I was down in Richmond, Virginia, where, life couldn't be easier. And we have terrible pollen in the spring, but that's about it. That's like the worst thing about Richmond.
Right.
It's such a nice city. It's such a nice city. And so I played in the orchestra for a few years, and then I moved up from fourth horn to the second corps position, which was a full-time job. That was a little bit more than $6,800, and it had benefits and all that good stuff. But I was playing full time, so I got that experience of being a full time musician. Um,
So
and
tell,
then,
yes.
and,
So tell me what happened then. And by the way, I just wanted to interject that that first year when you get a job, right? I mean,
yeah,
maybe it's just coincidental, but my first year as well, I get, a part of the, like aside of the fact that you're coming to a new city, if you're not from that city, and you have to adapt and all that stuff. Maybe you learn a different language or, tweak the one you already maybe
yeah, I
know.
had to learn Southern. Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, like my first season, I had to play Bolero, Ravel's Bolero 25 times in concert. That doesn't include all the rehearsals.
right,
Like 50 times I had to play Bolero, which, I was 22 years old, fresh out of school, and I knew how to do it. But, that's a different level. Like when you're doing it for real, getting paid to do it versus
right,
practicing it in a little practice room. So I understand what you're saying
right,
about
right.
challenges.
And so was having a great time. And like I said, I was playing a lot. I was teaching a lot. I actually taught ear training, which, Dr. Cox, I'm sorry. It wasn't pretty, but I got through some dandelo and that type of thing. I taught at a local college. Um, in 98, something started to feel weird with my chops. And it continued to feel weird. And one day at a gig, it just like, um, and I was a very natural horn player. I um, never really had to work on embouchure and things like that. I just put the horn up to my face in fourth grade and I started to play. Um, and so I was pretty caught off guard with that. So I struggled with it. I was diagnosed with focal dystonia or embouchure dystonia, which was kind of, its study was in its infancy in 1998 and 99. And now it's huge. There's a wonderful Facebook community of folks with focal dystonia. A lot of people that we know and love from all our Philharmonic recordings and Chicago recordings and have been affected by this disease as well. So I'm kind of in extremely good company.
For unfortunate reasons, but yeah.
Yeah. Crappy reason, right? So I put the horn down, and that was done. That part of my life was had to be done for the time. And then I got pregnant with my first daughter, and I started prenatal yoga. And I think I'd taken some yoga in school. I don't know what that noise is, but I'd taken some yoga in school, maybe. And then I really liked it. And then after my second,
Sorry, you said you took yoga in school. Were
I
they
think I might have taken a class or two at Juilliard.
were they offering yoga at Juilliard?
I think like one or two classes. I think I took one there. I remember it was in a big dance studio.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe I didn't know about it.
it was really weird. It wasn't anything like that I was going to continue. But through prenatal yoga, and then I started, of course, I was so focused on baby, and I was working full time at the time at a desk job. But I really liked it. So after my second child, I went and took a teacher training and started teaching right off the bat. And teaching is in my blood. My father was a teacher. My mother is a teacher. Really, whether it's on the horn or I had a large horn studio here. And so I just kind of shifted that over to the ancient science of yoga, which is.
Can I ask you? But you did play also. You tried playing guitar for a while as well, right?
Keep bringing that up. I was so bad at it.
When I visited you, I think you were getting into it at the time. It's been a few years, so I just keep remembering the guitar.
Yeah, and I wanted to play, and all my guitar player friends out there, more power to you. I mean, I cannot read 3 or 4 notes at a time. I was just following the one, and I was building my little snowman and trying to find, trying to figure out what chord it was. So that was I couldn't even play around a campfire, to tell you the truth. So yeah, I tried to use that as a musical outlet, and didn't have that much. It was fun. But then I really got into this ancient science, and first it was the physical stuff that I started noticing, stronger, leaner, balance better. I actually have core muscles, shoulder muscles, and I'm pretty naturally muscular anyway. But you start finding all that stuff, you're like, oh, I'm powerful. And then this beautiful secondary benefit of finding calm, really being able to find calm in the storm. And that's really what got me through being a stay-at-home mom. And I always had my little outlet of teaching. Um, and I went deeper into the practice. So of course, being a musician, I have good pitch. So I learned mantra yoga. So I sing mantras and stuff like that. I learned Sanskrit. Um, yeah, yoga is really old, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know. Um, I mean,
I thought it was a new thing, a new trend.
no, 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 it didn't start like in New York or Chicago or LA. No, yoga, the science of yoga is like 6,000 years old if it's a day. I mean, it's quite old. And it was codified in a work called the Yoga Sutras by a sage named Patanjali. And it's not even seen like it was something that he came up with in his brain. It was actually seen as something that he realized. In Sanskrit, the word is shruti. It's like a sacred knowledge that was passed down to him. And he talks about the body and the breath, and most of all, balance. Finding balance in our lives. I mean, they were worried about this 2,000 years ago. um, and it seemed like it kind of stuck.
Even 6,000 years ago, apparently.
Yeah, but Patanjali wrote this. Yeah, exactly. And Patanjali wrote this codification of the practice about 1,800, 2,000 years ago. Um, and and then it started building. So the way the yoga practice started was very much meditation, and meditation. It's all going in through the mind, finding peace in the body and the spirit through the mind. And then yogis started to think, well, we're having trouble sitting here for like 12 hours a day while we're trying to recite our mantra and do these, pujas for the gods and all of this kind of stuff. So we need to learn how to stretch. And so then they started making all of the poses, basically to help you sit in lotus pose for for 12 hours.
That's really interesting, actually. It never occurred to me this
Yep.
roundabout way of, yeah.
Yeah. And then there was another sage, named Shwatmarama, who wrote a book on the physical practice of yoga itself. And that was about 1,200 years ago, I think, something like that. And he was the one that was really talking about the poses. And then really everything that has come from there, the physical practice of yoga, is kind of all based on that. But a lot of students say, I just don't want to do, I want to do the physical stuff. I don't want to do that mental crap. And I say, okay. And then we start getting the body feeling better. We start getting stronger and longer and leaner, sleeping better. And then we start to notice, my mind feels better. It's not so jumbly anymore. Right. Like I did something magical.
No, I mean, I think so many people forget or aren't even aware of how much mind-body connection there is, and if we are feeling well in our bodies, then we have more clarity of mind, and vice versa as well. We should anyway, if we're taking care of our minds and trying to find calm and living a life of gratitude, it does make us feel better physically, and it does help to heal a lot of things in our physical bodies.
Yep. And there's a very important Swami that started a place called Yogaville. Excuse me. It's actually a town. It's a zip code called Yogaville. And it's an ashram here it's a beautiful ashram in Buckingham County, about an hour and 20 minutes away. And he would talk about, when they were saying mind over matter, his phrase is, if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Right. So anything that we can bring, any joy, any gratitude that we can bring to our mind, it kind of, knocks out the rest of the stuff. But we still have this physical body that we have to take care of. And yoga, the different practices of yoga, starting with, gentle stretches, gentle movement, breathing practices, all the way up to the athletic and the, the very, the Cirque du Soleil kind of stuff. I don't practice at all.
I know I have a friend, sorry to interrupt. I have a friend in New York. She's a violinist, and she practices acro yoga, right? Yeah, and she's seems like she's really good at it. It looks very complex.
Yeah, and that's kind of bringing an extra, I just talk about like layers, because we all start with the breath, right? We're all breathing. So when it comes to musicians, and you can attest to this, I can attest to this, any of our colleagues that are out there, that we went to school with, yeah, we didn't have any kind of talk about fitness and the body or anything like that. Should we have known it? Yeah, probably. Were we, too stupid and naive? Yes, definitely. And we were in our 20 somethings when we're in school. What 20 somethings think about their bodies? I mean, come on, we're going to live forever.
Yeah, but if I may interject, this is exactly the kind of reason, well, this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this Fit Musician project, because at school we are not taught about, or we weren't taught about these things. And I feel it's extremely important that students of music be taught these things.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, that's exactly the point. That it's not so much that we were stupid and naive. I mean, maybe some of us were we were kids, right? But I mean, it was not a subject at school that we chose to take because it wasn't one of the options.
Yeah. So I think now that, us and, a bunch of other 50-year-olds, that are doing a lot of different things in the world are beginning to realize, this is something that can really be helpful. So I do have clients who are musicians. One of my clients just got into Manus, and hopefully another grad school. He's a trumpet player. I was coaching a trumpet player. Oh my God. But he comes in and he talks about, his practice days layering on top of his gym days. And I was like, wow, you little millennial are so smart. And he's like, leg day is I'm going to do this on the horn, arm day, I'm going to do this on the horn. And I thought that is really something. And he chose to also, add on top of that yoga and meditation as well.
Fabulous.
So, I mean, can it help everyone? Yes. Can it help musicians? Absolutely. Absolutely. On and off the map.
And before we're going to start talking about that a little bit more specifically now, but I just wanted to add to what you said before. Well, I mean, speaking of the reason why you found a way to heal after your embouchure dystonia, because I think so many of us forget. And I was just speaking to another friend and colleague the other day about this. She had an injury. She's a flute player, and she had injured one of her hands. I think it was her.
Well, they use both of them, so.
Sorry, Lynn, I can't remember. But it's not just a physical injury. It becomes an emotional injury for us because this is what we do. This is our livelihood. This is our passion. This is what we spend our days doing, practicing, performing, rehearsing. And as we've seen now during the pandemic, even so many of us, who aren't getting paid, if many freelancers who have just been home other than maybe some unemployment or whatever, we're still making music because we need it. It's part of the makeup of who we are. And so these physical injuries affect our emotional state as well. And if we cannot produce, sound on our instruments, if we can't make music with our physical instruments, which like the physical therapist that I interviewed a couple of weeks ago on this same channel, Daniel Padmos, where he said very clearly, and one of his specialties is to, work with the instrument, our main instrument, which is our body. Our physical instruments are an extension of our body. So it's not just a physical injury, and it's so easy to sort of dismiss these things as physical injuries only. So anyway, that was my little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, you talk about a depression. I mean, I certainly went there after. So at first, when I put the horn down, and everybody, I'm going to admit this out loud, but I was actually elated and relieved because I wasn't struggling this thing that had been my friend for a really long time. And that kind of carried on for some time, because when that struggle is so real, but certainly it was, the counseling and the therapy that I have done since and continue to do it's a lot about grief counseling and a lot about trauma therapy, and how what happens in our body and also in our mind, translates into the instrument. And You know, the mind is a terrible thing.
It's terribly powerful. Yes.
Mind is extremely powerful. And I mean, I truly believe it's not like you're going to do something so simple. I mean, am I going to snap my hands and think myself, I'm going to play the horn now? There's been a lot that's gone on in our subconscious mind and stuff like that. A lot of layers to take off. But our ability is always there. But everybody that's gone through pandemic, all my musician friends that have been out of work, I've been thinking about you nonstop for a year. I know what the symphony musicians in Richmond have been doing, and it's been rough. And of course, all of my colleagues at the gym, we've all been laid off too. And you know, we got fat and happy for about 3 months, kept collecting unemployment, but then what?
I mean, it is a 1-year anniversary for a lot of people of the official shutdown. And I'll never forget, I don't remember if it was the 12th of March or the 13th or whatever, but you know, the day that the former president announced that all flights would be canceled from Europe. And I was like, what? Yeah. So I think that's when it really hit me. I was like, wait a minute, I was supposed to go home in April last year. Anyway, whatever. But
yeah, for me, it's the 16th. I taught my last class at the gym on the 16th. Luckily I'm teaching at another gym now. So
excellent. So yeah, so let's lead into what you just alluded to before. Can you explain to us, and by the way, I want to tell everybody that Iffet has offered at some point to start perhaps doing some live yoga sessions on the Fit Musician channel. So and I'm sure everyone is very, very grateful for that. And thank you so much. But today we're just going to talk a bit more, and so people can get to know you and all this stuff. So yeah, can you elaborate a bit more on, do you have any suggestions rather? I don't know if you want to talk about poses or breathing techniques. Again, we're focused on instrumentalists and musicians here. So anything you can tell us about, for example, different instrument groups like string players or brass players or wind players. Are there any breathing techniques that might benefit, you know, especially brass and woodwinds who you guys, you know, have to control your breath for that? That's all yours.
It's interesting that you talk about control your breath, because when I started teaching, when I started practicing yoga myself, I was like breathing in and breathing out. I mean, because I was a horn player, so I had to push through 18 feet of tubing and, you know, have the sound, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I had to have many teachers tell me, chill. You know, breathing is what we do. It's normal and it's easy. Now, the yogi tries to be extraordinary. So kind of encompassing all of my musician friends. For those that breathe, chill out about it. For those that breathe to play, for those that don't breathe to play, guess what? You do breathe to play. So, I mean, I've had the greatest fun, you know, coaching string players and piano players. You know, they're playing, you know, there's nothing going in and going out. So it's really kind of getting used to that in and out of breath. That's it. It goes in, it goes out. But really taking that time to notice it. Now, one thing that musicians do great is we can count and we can keep rhythm. So just a very, very simple exercise is there's no kind of control that needs to happen. There's no kind of, you know, sucking in or pushing out. It's simply breathing in for a certain count and breathing out for a certain count. It's a lot harder than you think. Okay? It's a lot harder than you think. So we're just gonna do like 3 or 4 rounds. Okay, just now. Okay. So we can keep the eyes open, keep them closed. It doesn't matter. So just breathe normally in and just breathe normally out. Breathe normally in and out. Now breathe in for 4. So we'll go 4, 3, 2, 1, and out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. 4, 3, 2. One more round. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Here's the important part. Just let your breath relax and just notice how you feel. So especially as musicians, you probably kept that ticking going, and you probably kept breathing in time, at least for a little bit. So the breath is so important. And you'll also notice that one way was easier for you. So we're either inhalers or exhalers. For me, I could exhale all day long. Don't count my exhale. I just want to hang out and breathe out and let it all go and sit at the bottom of my breath, and, okay, I'll inhale too. So you probably notice as we do something like this, one is easier than the other. So in yogic physiology, we have a whole physiology that goes along with the practice. The inhale is bringing in prana or life force energy into the body. The exhale is releasing that which we don't need. Right. So, I mean, it's kind of the same as like regular breathing, right?
Too. Yeah.
It's an oxygen exchange. That's what happens, right? But on even a more energetic level than that, the inhale is life-giving. The exhale is, I don't want to say bringing death, but it's more that relaxing. Right. So the inhale relates to our right side. The exhale relates to our left side. So what we look for in a yoga practice and what we should look for in any life, a musician's life especially, is balance. So if we're bringing balance to our breathing, it will translate to our body and to our mind. So we notice that we have less racing of thoughts. Things start to get more even. My kid and I were talking about this word. There's this word in Sanskrit called sattva. And it means it's in the middle. It's luminosity. It's equilibrium. Right. Complete and total. Because you're not up here like, blah, 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 and you're not down here like, right. Everything. We need all three of those. We need the energy and we need the relax.
Right. Balancing of energies, of course.
Balancing energy, exactly. So I have found more than anything, finding, even doing just an even breathing practice, just like that, really, really can calm you down. Or it can energize you at the same time.
Just a quick question. When we're, when we're inhaling, are we focusing on filling our lungs or filling our stomach and then, breathing out?
No, it's, well, I mean, there's thousands and thousands of breathing techniques, right? So just for that breath, I would just do, easy in, easy out, easy in, easy out. I have a 3-part breath. You breathe into the belly, the ribs, the chest. You breathe out, chest, ribs, belly. I have one that you just breathe into the belly. For that one, we just fill up and we let go. Yeah. I like doing breathing practices, especially lying down and things like that.
Okay. And again, touching on what you said, when, of course, we all have to breathe, we all should be breathing as musicians, no matter what we play. I've done a lot of work, at school and then throughout the years, of just even coordinating upbeats and downbeats, with an inhale and an exhale, because it's kind of how it goes. It's kind of really how it works. And one of my teachers at Juilliard was very, we never spoke about it in those terms, but it was always about the breath,
Yeah.
It was kind of.
And to us, if there are any other brass players, wind players out there, we're like, duh, but it's not only that, it's actually extending out to breathing in time. Because if you take a breath and you go to play something slow, it doesn't match, right? And especially if you're playing an audition, this is a big deal when you're auditioning. And I took hundreds and hundreds of auditions. If you're going to play Tchaik 5 solo, it's got to be, you got to tell them how it's going to sound and what's going to happen next. So any and all of these breathing practices are great.
And this is what orchestra conductors do all day long when they give upbeats, when they're trying to direct an ensemble of musicians. I mean, the worst thing, as you know, the worst thing is to have a conductor on the podium who prepares an upbeat with a particular breath in a particular tempo and then suddenly starts beating in a different tempo altogether. It's like, what? What just happened?
God, horsey.
I think we don't even realize how much we're relying on that breath, because it's always this inhale and then boom, and it's what they do. And I think a lot of people we don't verbalize, we don't articulate when we speak of conductors, or even they themselves don't necessarily do this. Anyway, that is a big contrast that, especially as a drummer, is extremely aggravating to many drummers. So yeah.
Remember when we were in what do we used to call it? The baby orchestra. We used to call it a babysitting orchestra. What was it? In lab orchestra?
Oh, lab orchestra, where the conductors had their practice sessions. Yes. I remember.
Scary times, man. Scary. It's like I didn't want anybody sitting in on my lesson. We had to sit in on their lesson every week, and with Otto Werner Mueller, nonetheless. But I don't even remember that being addressed. He might have said do this, but to breathe with it, I don't even remember that being a thing.
I don't know either. No. And by the way, I just remembered one other thing that you and I did together. We were taken to Iceland with a group of other musicians.
Dr. Paul Zukowski. Yes, that is true.
Late Paul Zukowski. I can't believe he's not with us anymore. That was an amazing trip. But yeah, I just realized, I was like, oh my God, we were all at the Hard Rock Cafe in Reykjavik together. We have photos to prove it too.
Eating fish for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I forgot to say that. Okay. So let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask you something else. Oh, before we get off of the breathing subject, I also wanted to ask you about diets and certain foods. And I forgot to mention this to you before we spoke, but are there in yoga in general, or different kinds of yoga, are there dietary associations that go with different yoga practices?
Yeah. So there are in yogic philosophy, and a lot of people don't know this. I didn't learn it until I went into teacher training. But yogic philosophy has 10 rules. And they are called basically the translation is the do's and the don'ts, or the don'ts and the do's. And I don't know, there are 10 other things that I remember that are kind of like that. It's almost exactly like the 10 Commandments. But the very first one is ahimsa. It's this word ahimsa, and it means non-harming. So as that is the first rule, it's not just because it begins with A, but it's the first rule. That has been seen to call for a vegetarian diet in yoga practice. So I'm never here to tell you what to eat, what not to eat. Heck, I can't tell my husband what to eat, what not to eat. Right. But if we kind of keep that, if you want to keep really the balance is what's most important. Against the Swami that started this Yogaville, when he started the ashram, they said, oh, we should have all, vegetarian foods and no coffee and no alcohol and all of this kind of stuff. And he said, but people like coffee and alcohol. And, and by telling anything that's restrictive is never going to work. And it's never advised.
Right.
Now, the sister science to yoga is called Ayurveda. And a lot of people have been talking about Ayurveda, especially during lockdown, we've had the time and we've been looking stuff up. People have been taking courses in Ayurveda and stuff like that, doing Ayurvedic cleansing. But Ayurveda is seen as the yoga is for the mind and the Ayurveda is for the body. And
by the way, Ayurveda in general, is it a blood type based diet? It's not. No. Okay.
It's a type based diet.
Okay.
It's a constitutional type. So it goes on the basis of that we have one of three elements. It's fire, water, or phlegm. It's actually phlegm, which is gross, and wind. Okay. And there are these three types, and every body and all the organs in the body have one of these three constitutions predominant, and then one secondary, one tertiary. And so just as a very easy way to think about it, so I'm the fire element. So, which I don't think anybody would be shocked at. I have bright eyes, and I'm a good speaker, and I'm a good leader, and I have good muscle tone, and think about everything that has to do with like fire. Really, I'm very like up in your face and type thing. And so it is recommended that the fire types always want to add. So fire types love being in the sun. We love hot weather. We love hot food. And all of this kind of stuff, because that element always wants to propagate itself. So one thing that I do is actually Ayurvedic coaching, where we figure out your type. And then again, I would never say, don't ever eat. If anybody told me not to eat a jalapeno pepper again, I would tell them to stuff it, or coffee, we're not going to do that, but we are going to find a balance.
Sure.
That aids in us feeling well.
Right.
So I also do that Ayurvedic counseling. So yoga basically says don't hurt things. So, but then if you look at it deeper, well, a blade of grass is a living being, and I'm not going to eat a blade of grass. I mean, that can be taken pretty far. But all foods, again, speaking of that word in the middle, that sattva, things should be in the middle. They should not be too spicy or spiced. They shouldn't be too heavy, just things in the middle. And even eating all fresh foods is not really recommended in yoga. You have to have some cooked foods. Right. Even eating bland food, why would you want to? There's no fun in that. Eating foods with spices, again, that help your digestion. Oh yeah, all of yoga is about digestion, by the way. Oh. And I don't know about you, but when I was a musician, it was all about, I can't have too much salt. I have to hydrate, although I didn't know that word then. And I can't drink alcohol. I have to watch I can't be bloated. I can't, I have to make sure that I poop, all of this kind of stuff. Right. I have to pee an hour before the show. So actually yoga poses and yogic physiology have to do with not only the food that you take in, so you talk about what comes in, but how it's eliminated as well. Right. So don't want to get into that too much, but a very cursory look at yoga poses and their benefits. You'll start with the physical, a forward fold, just folding yourself in half, ish. Okay, you're going to stretch your hamstrings, you're going to stretch your back. And then second layer, it increases the digestion because you're squishing your tummy. And then what does that do? It makes you poop better. And
I don't know. I'm learning.
I taught a yoga teacher training program, and it was not very long that we were looking into, the do's and the don'ts of the poses and all of this kind of stuff. And it was like, they were like, oh my God, all of these have to do with pooping. And, and getting rid of and having your body, but it is part of having our bodies work efficiently.
Of course, they've even written books for kids about it. So yeah. No, but like for example, I've done Bikram yoga, hot yoga. I know, wait a minute, hang on. And what I was about to tell you, and my sister, she does Jiva Mukti. She practices Jiva Mukti yoga. And
that's a beautiful practice.
Yeah, and I've been with her to a couple of sessions when I've been able to go, and she's always made the face when I told her I was doing Bikram. She's like, "Oh, you shouldn't. So bad for you. You shouldn't do it. You could injure yourself." I didn't injure myself doing that. I got injured differently, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, so those are the two kinds of yogas that I've actually practiced more one than the other. Part of it was also convenience and whatnot. But can you tell us, I should have asked you this already a while ago, what sorts of styles or types of yoga are you teaching? Do you have like a favorite type, or do you prefer?
I've done a lot. I've tried pretty much everything. What works best for me, I've taught in studios, I've taught at the ashram myself, I've taught at gyms, and what works best for me. See, the physical practice of yoga is called hatha yoga. So if you go into a place and it says, it's hatha yoga, it's going to be physical yoga.
Right.
So Bikram is hatha yoga, Jivamukti is hatha. All of the other sort of brands are Iyengar and all of that kind of stuff. So we know that's all dealing with the physical body and the energies and all of that kind of stuff. I, not surprisingly, take to a flowing practice called vinyasa. So that's inhale to do this, exhale to do that, and it's kind of a constantly flowing, moving practice, and that really speaks to me as a musician. And then also it's like we learn a little bit, we keep, we perfect this one little bit, and then we kind of, I say revamp on it. I use these like musician words, and I say from the top, and things like that, and we expand and grow. But even just from that little nugget, kind of growing out of that. So it's very, to me, vinyasa yoga or flow yoga makes a lot of sense. The word vinyasa itself actually means to place one in front of the other. So I think that's an excellent kind of way to answer that question. Yeah, but everything, but I mean, even a little bit more, my big thing is make it adaptable. I want everybody to practice. Right. If you're sitting in a wheelchair, I will have you practice. If you're, super bendy and strong and all that kind of stuff, I will make a practice for you. Anything in between. I'm all about accessibility.
And do you feel, again, going back to musicians' needs, for example, again, one of the reasons I wanted to do this whole project is because we as musicians tend to be more sedentary than a body should be, because we sit and practice for hours on end, we sit in rehearsals, we sit in concerts, and those of us that can even stand up during a concert, like a percussionist can, or some of us horn players, brass players, wind players, a lot of people can play on their feet for recital or chamber music, but some people can't. But as far as the difference in the types of yoga with the physicality aspect, for example, vinyasa, right? Or no, hatha yoga, excuse me.
Hatha yoga.
Or different types of hatha yoga. Do you recommend that certain instrumentalists maybe practice more or lean more towards hatha yoga? Or does it really not make a difference?
So when we're talking about it, I mean, any hatha yoga is going to have alignment principles. You're going to have to create, a nice posture, shoulders back and down, head on top of the spine, all of that type of stuff. Find out where the biggest problem is sitting. And of course I have percussionist friends as well. They're just like, well, I don't sit, I stand, and my back still hurts. The problem is sitting in this position. So this is your back, and this is, and you're sitting, and you have this is your, your hips here in the middle, and you're folding them up. These are muscles that are lifting and lowering your leg to walk. They're called the hip flexors. And at the same time, on the back side, you have the hip extensors that are constantly being stretched. So you have these muscles being folded, these muscles being stretched all the time. So sitting, what are they saying? Sitting is the new smoking, right? It's like as bad for you as doing that. So yeah, so doing lunges, doing warrior poses, doing anything that opens up the front of the body and gets you out of this position, right. Opens you up in that way. Absolutely. I prefer, especially for musicians, since musicians are so intensively creating, and they have to go fast. Vinyasa does tend to go fast. It is a more athletic type. But doing, the more gentle practices, there is a practice called yin yoga, which is quite beautiful. And, like watching a yin yoga practice is like watching paint dry. You don't do anything. You're there for, it's like a restorative. I teach a restorative class on Monday nights, and it's holding these postures for some time, but just kind of, it actually takes a lot of discipline to not fidget, to not keep trying to fix things, to just
slow movement, slow progression is often more difficult than faster flows. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you think, But the way I do things, I don't throw everybody into just, all the cerebral stuff right away. I don't make you think right away. but we get the body feeling better. And so any yoga teacher, honestly, that I ever talk to, we all go to gentle practices. We're all like restorative, yin, gentle yoga, but anywhere you get started, get started.
Right. And the last thing I just want to discuss as far as the benefits and the damage that we do to ourselves without realizing it over years and years of practicing instruments, and again being in the sitting pose for so long, is a circulatory issue, right? I mean, we limit our circulation, and I think I have so many friends who are cellists and pianists, harp players, those three especially, who really can't stand up when they play. But then the rest of us, I mean, I stand up to play marimba, I stand up to practice snare drum, but I can also sit down to play a lot of things. And if I could be sitting in front of the TV practicing triangle technique, just quietly, just to get my hands going. But I have that different option. But a lot of people don't have the option to stand up and play and take a step back.
Well, I got to tell you, as somebody that sees postures and feet and hips and backs, for a living, just because you're standing doesn't mean you're doing it right.
Absolutely right.
And the one thing we did have at school was, I do remember I did take Alexander technique at school, and I highly recommend that. Just to show you where your body is in space and in relation to, you're not, it's like that. That's when I really had the idea of the horn being, becoming an extension of my body. So, I've seen so many people, yeah, we get to sit. Oh yeah, baby, I sit. My shoulders hiked up to my ears. Yeah. So again, just you're doing it.
Anyway, circulation, obviously we all need it, but we limit our circulation, we limit, the flow, and then we get other issues because of that.
Yeah.
Thrombosis in the legs, the same kind of thing that happens when you travel on an airplane for many hours.
Yeah.
I mean, we are susceptible to that if we're not walking enough, if we're not stretching enough, if we're not moving enough, upper body, everything.
And one thing that happens to horn players as well as cellists is you have to sit in that spread leg position, and so that turns into a waddle when you walk, because your inner thighs get stretched, your outer thighs get tight, and that turns into an imbalance in the hips. By the way, imbalance in the hips is really what it's all about. I've done so many yogic seminars, I can't even tell you. And it comes back emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything to what's going on in that hip bowl. And the more we know about it and about the musculature of it, it's fascinating. I mean, I'm a total geek with that stuff, but it's really fascinating the way it translates up and translates down and then translates into your instrument as well.
Well, no, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing that all of the years that we've spent, as musicians, in a way, it's also simple, right? I mean, it all really comes down to digestion, balance, breath, circulation, things we can't live without. So, all right. Well, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to share with us. We've been talking for a while, and I've loved this, and we could talk for hours, you and I, but is there anything specific that you haven't had a chance to say yet? Or
well, I just want to encourage people. It's probably an average of 2 people a week that hit me up, that want to start. They hear that I'm a yoga teacher and they're like, oh, what's that about? And they're like, I've heard of this. We call them like they're interested, they're ignorant about it, but they're interested. Be one of those people. Seek it out, look for it. Any yoga teacher worth their salt is going to be able to tell you, what it is. And if they can't, don't go to them. But now, since Zoom, I fought teaching on Zoom for quite some time. And then when I realized that this is how we were going to be, I've been hitting up people Pacific Northwest and out in California and all of this kind of stuff. It's so great.
I mean, I remember, like, suddenly I started seeing at least on Facebook, I started seeing your posts, more frequently. I was like, oh man, I want to do, and of course the problem is that because of the time difference, when I'm in Spain, which by the way, soon I won't be, I'll be same time zone as you, so I'll have no excuses. But it's just been a little tricky for me usually to get to that. But I can't wait, and I am looking forward to especially if you can share your knowledge and your experience with us in the group once in a while. We'll be very grateful for that.
I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it. And my private sessions have really taken off during Zoom. I mean, I was doing a lot of private before that, but it's made it so much more accessible. I have clients that haven't been able to leave their retirement communities for a year. But we've been here. We've been doing this. So please seek it out. It's not as healy-feely as you might think, although, we're going to sit and make you breathe a little bit. I mean, that's
not so bad. No, but please tell everyone, tell people where they can find you and how.
Yeah, the name of my group is Iffet's Zoom Yoga, because if you look up Zoom Yoga, it's Iffet is my first name. Iffet Zoom Yoga, and you can ask to join. I'll let you in. Right now I'm at.
Sorry, I'll put the link in the comments and all that, or I'll just post in the comments afterwards so people can find you. Yeah.
So right now I'm doing a gentle class on Wednesdays at 11 Eastern. I'm doing a vinyasa class, a flow class, Saturdays at 12:30 Eastern, and then a Monday night slow flow and restorative, which is so delicious and yummy, and you would really love it. And I do everything by donation. Everybody's been really generous, but hey, if you're an out of work musician, I don't want you to pay me for this. I want you to come in for it. I would much rather have people, I have some people, I know somebody that's listening that says, you can't give this stuff away, but I can, because it was given to me in that way.
Well, musicians, I mean, we've been giving away a lot of our own art this year because we're generous people and we love doing what we do and we want to share it with everyone. So yeah, I mean, we're never going to give everything away. There's not enough time, not everyone has time to pay attention to all the things we do and all the things we allow. But no, I think it's beautiful. We belong to an amazing community, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm happy and I love to do this. And, I hope that this can grow. Everyone should contact Iffet or join her yoga sessions throughout the week. I'm going to put all of this stuff in the group so everyone can find you easily. And I wanted to remind everyone about my friend Donnie's drink before I
drink. Let's see the drink.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me, just give me a second here. Where are we? If I can find what I'm looking for. Okay. I'm really bad at this screen sharing thing. So you know what? I think I'm just going to post it in the group because.
Post it in the group, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it by mail order or where can we order it?
He's all over. I think he's on Amazon and stuff like that. It's called, I think so, I'm pretty sure. Celevate, Celevate. Check it out, celevate.com. He can't ship to Europe yet. So because of the pandemic, all of that has been, it's the pandemic. All of that stuff has been put on hold. But I'm going to post it in the group after I post your contact details, so that people can also, I'll link everybody, I'll tag everybody. But yeah, my friend Donnie Bergeron is a wonderful electronic music producer, and he goes by the name, his artist name is Savage, S-A-V-E-G, S-A-V-E-J, my mistake. Nice. His music is really cool. I highly recommend everyone check it out. I'm going to link everything to you so people can find you. Iffet, thank you so much. This has been such an honor. I love you to bits, you know that. And I look forward to our sessions. And in the meantime, I'll try and do more of your sessions.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone. And by the way, one last thing for the Fit Musician group, I have a new Instagram. So it's _fit_musician. I'll put that in the group, links and all that stuff as well. And I hope everybody will go to Instagram because I'll start posting more things there. So thank you again, Iffet.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody. Take care and stay safe. And we'll see you very soon.